Good morning. This is Selena with Selena Ware Consulting. I hope you're having a great day. We're here. So now we still have an opportunity to be better together. Wanted to come on so that we could wrap up our series around alleviating nervousness around interviewing. So I have a few things I wanted to share with you today, and hopefully you can leverage the information, share, send it to somebody, even leverage it for yourself if needed when there is a time that comes when you have to prepare mentally and physically for an interview. Not trying to create any additional nervousness or anxiety, but it is important to prepare for interviews prior to going in. We don't want to wing things that can impact where we can go and where we want to go within our career. So, with that being said, we'll jump right in. So, one of the first things I wanted to start in with is there may be some anxiety around being the center of attention when it comes to interviewing. And that's exactly what it is. You're being brought in, you're being told, like, you're going to be interviewing with person one. You may walk into the room and there's two other people with you. You may log onto the Zoom or the video and you realize there's people there you don't know who they are, you don't know what they represent, you don't understand what questions they're going to ask. So it's okay. Be mindful that the more people that they have an interview, especially level one or level two, that's less times that you may have to come back and interview multiple times to get the job that you're requesting or going after. So that's a good thing. So don't let that shift you. Don't let that create unnecessary anxiousness for you. Go in, making sure, although you know you're the center of attention, taking a moment when people introduce themselves, making sure you're taking notes around maybe first name or last name and what their role is, so that when they are directing questions to you, you have a backup. You have a moment to redirect questions back to whomever at the end of the interview based on their station within the company. So that's okay. Just know that you are the center of attention, and that's okay. And how do we alleviate that? We practice, practice, practice before we interview. We do mock interviews with friends and family. You can reach out to me and purchase a consultation to do interview prep. We practice because once you go into an interview, knowing that you have practiced already, that in itself is going to minimize your anxiety. It's the whole fear of the unknown, right? And when you go into something and there's so much fear and anxiety around it, then you may over index on things that you wouldn't normally say or do or behave. So we want to show up well, right? So that's why we practice. And so that's why it's important to practice. So that will help you with the whole fear of being the center of attention, saying too much or not enough. The other thing I want to share with you is just making sure you're present in the moment, right? So I say that not to be sarcastic in any way, but being present in the moment. When they ask you a question and maybe you don't have the entire answer, don't pressure yourself around just saying yes. When an employer puts together a job description, that is a blueprint. Of course, they'd like to find a candidate that has every single thing on the list, but that doesn't mean they will. You may have 90% of things on the list, but that doesn't mean you don't have other portions of your experience and your career that can't be parlayed into the activity. For example, if you're going in and you're interviewing for a healthcare company, but you haven't been in healthcare 5 years or 10 years, but you have been in insurance or you've been in the oil industry and you understand processes and you understand the things that have to happen to complete an activity end to end, that doesn't mean it can't be parlayed into that conversation that you're having with the potential employer. So don't feel pressure to say yes to everything. Just make sure you understand and you have the words and thoughts to be clear and concise around how your current experience or your previous experience will support you in it. And it's okay to even take a moment and say, that's a great question. Can you give me a second to think about that? They're not going to say no. So they're going to say yes. You're going to give yourself a little grace. Maybe take a breath. think back in your head, maybe 5 to 10 seconds. Think about what you want to say at the beginning and what you want to leave them with. And then you dial back in and you start talking to them and you tell them. And on the other side of that, that employer is going to be very impressed that you took a moment to say, can I think about that? Can you give me a moment? I really want to make sure I answer your question thoroughly. And in your mind, you may think that's a long time, that's a long pause. But the person that's sitting there listening and watching you gather your thoughts, that's going to be a win for you. That's going to elevate you in the candidate pool. So don't feel pressured to say yes to everything. Take a beat, take a moment, ask for more time if you need to. Make sure you're practicing interviewing prior to the interview. And that's really all you can do, right? Making sure you have questions at the end of the interview when they ask you, do you have any questions? I covered those in the previous series that's on my channel. Please take a look at that. If you do the things that I've given you, I promise, you'll elevate yourself in the candidate pool and hopefully get a call back. If you need any help or support around this, please reach out. I have all the information in the bio below. You have a productive day. Bye-bye.